We'll be starting the first session of day 2 today. I would like all of you to please be seated so that we can proceed ahead. Shujat. I would like to invite Mr. Abdul Rauf Khan as the chair of this session. I would like to give us a brief introduction about Mr. Abdul Rauf Khan. Mr. Rauf has over 26 years of diverse technical and management experience with leading national and multinational companies. His significant contribution remain in creating value through exploration successes, developing successful teams, exploration business strategies, and proposing implementation methods, preparing business plans and delivery in different geological settings and diversified business environments. He started off his career with Schlumberger, Abu Dhabi, as a geoscientist and contributed in significant upstream projects with major E&P operators in Middle East, NSA, and North Africa. His contribution and significant achievements include opening of new plays, extending discovered play limits, meeting challenging timelines through planning and team synergy, quality portfolio expansion, influencing stakeholders with right approach, resource addition through significant exploration and appraisal successes. His career profile reflects his contribution and track record in association with key E&P operators including ADNOC, ExxonMobil, UEPL, and MPCL, where he is currently serving as Director Operations. Mr. Abdul Rauf Khan, it's an honor to have you here as our esteemed chair. So before I proceed ahead, I would like all the presenters to keep this thing in mind that they will be having 20 minutes window of presenting their presentations. After 15 minutes, we will ring the bell, which will be an indication to wrap things up early. And we will be taking maximum 3 to 4 questions. One more thing before I hand over the mic to Mr. Abdul Rauf. In the last 2 sessions which held yesterday, I was a little bit disappointed to see that the attendance was very less because all the presenters do a very hard job in preparing this presentation, doing the research work, and each and every one of them, they would always want that an audience should listen to them, they would ask them questions, and they would feel good when they'll be answering those questions, they will feel accomplished. But when a presenter is presenting to an empty crowd with no questions at all, so he will feel demotivated. And most probably, most of them will say that, koi zarurat nahi, next time hum karte hi nahi hai. So this thing will lead to a degradation of paper quality and research work. So it is my humble request to please ensure maximum attendance, and please you should appreciate all the presenters, ask questions from them, and make them feel that they are presenting to a real crowd, to real explorationists, and ask them challenging questions so that they should also feel that yes, we are at a conference and we are actually interacting with top industry professionals, and they will feel accomplished when they will be answering the right questions right answers to your right questions. Thank you very much. Sir, you can take over. Thank you.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome you all. It's the second day of ATC. I think this time we have seen that the ATC has attracted a lot of other audience from outside Pakistan. Mr. Marzuki, who was also here. The good thing is that he was also chairman of ECC, which PIUL, the project which was consortium of 4 companies, he was leading from Abu Dhabi, and he has said very good things about it. I think that's a good reflection of Pakistani industry and the professionals at international level. From yesterday, I personally have seen that we have improved quality of our technical papers. So that's a very good thing. I was suggesting to the organizing committee that now we need to target to take this ATC to international level. and just focus on that, and maybe we can also attract international authors to come and present at ATC. So let's target that inshallah for next year. Now let's go to the first paper presentation. The title is the Transforming Reservoir Understanding with Data Science and Machine Learning Based Fishes Modeling. So that's very interesting. So for that, I would like to invite Mr. Zubair, who has been associated with Schlumberger. He is a graduate from Qaid-e-Azam University, and he's been associated for since 2013. So I welcome Mr. Zubair to please come on stage and present your paper presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So here at the start of the presentation, the first presentation, I will go through how data science and machine learning change the reservoir understanding. I will start this presentation from background with our objectives of the study, then move on overall data science workflow. At the end, wrap up from our results with cross-validation attributes and with some concluding remarks. So starting the presentation, the impact of data science and machine learning to address the gaps in reservoir characterization cannot be overstated. If we see traditional fish modeling, there are a lot of challenges, like handling multiple secondary variables, parameter selections, and also the interdisciplinary demand of expertise in mathematics and geology. Machine learning in this new era gained profound understanding to address the gap in geoscience analysis, precise fishes modeling, and gap in expertise as well. So our objectives are threefold. First, to accurately predict different rock types with unparalleled accuracy and precision. The second goal is to capture the relationship among the different variables. And the last is to aim in enhance the efficiency and automation to reduce the time and also the manual intervention. So the data set that we have, it's a comprehensive geological and geophysical data that include wells, overall 8 from A to H. 2 wells, BW we took as blind well. Rock types, 5 rock types are interpreted based on different well logs and the seismic data as well. So moving towards the core part of the presentation, the data science workflow that starts from collection of data from different sources. After data collection, the next step is to refine, pre-process that data. Remove ambiguities, anomalies if there are any. Then machine learning models are applied on that refined data. These models are reiterated until we have a best possible result to ensure the reliability. Successful models are deployed and the predictions are made on new unseen data. So data preparation for this work are multi-phased approach. It starts from geometrical properties. We take into account cell coordinates in I, J, K, and direction. Furthermore, the factoring from distance to fault lines and considering to vertical depth as well. Seismic attributes to capture the subsurface uncertainty, complexity, and geostatistical information that play the major role. We utilize long-range variogram to capture overall broader trends and short-range variogram for small-scale heterogeneities. In total, we have 15 features covering all these 3 geometrical properties, seismic attributes, and geostatistical information. So before moving towards machine learning, first we have done the correlation between the input parameters, just to identify the noise, and the goal is to select the best possible feature as an input to gain more accuracy. If we see overall this graph, most of the features are uncorrelated with each other, except few, like X with I cell, Y with J cell, and K with TVD and Z. So this is overall workflow of our project. We selected few features, apply machine learning models, and at the end select the best possible 3 models and make the rock type prediction on those 3. So for model training and design phase, first we have done extraction at well for training. This basically captures hidden relations and dependencies between different inputs and their relation with the target, that is rock type as well. This gives deep understanding of reservoir heterogeneities and improve overall accuracy of the output. For the evaluation and validation, its generalization and robustness are its top priority. We have divided data set first in 2 parts. One is training and the other is validation. Model is trained on one set of data and its performance is assessed on validation part. To further improve, we have divided the data set overall in 5 folds. Model undergoes 5 times of iteration. For each iteration, one set is selected as a validation part as unseen data, and the rest 4 are taken as training part. This basically reduces the dependency on specific subset of data. So model can see different correlation at different iteration. So we have trained a lot of machine learning models. At the end, we selected the best possible 3, that are random forest, XGBoost, and sport vector machines. These models are selected based on their accuracy and with other metrics like precision on this data set. These directly affect the predictions. So let's look on deeply how these algorithm works. So looking on XGBoost, basically it's gradient boosting and regularization that prevent overfitting and handle the complex data set. It determines the final class of rock type by aggregating the result from each individual tree. And then the class that has more probability is selected as the final class. Random forest is another ensemble technique that uses feature selections. Same like XGBoost, it determines the final class by aggregating the results from multiple decision trees. And the class which has more votes is selected as final class. And sport vector like name, it basically defines the optimal hyperplane between different classes. These algorithms are selected for their strength for precise reservoir characterizations. Before moving forward, we also look how these models considering our input features. If we see XGBoost from overall 15 features, it's only considering 12. With most probability of geostatistics and geometrical attribute and putting seismic at low priority. Same random forest. It's considering all the input features with high priority of geostatistical and geometrical and somehow low but not too much low for seismic as well. And the sport vector machine, it's considering 13 features, but it's only giving priority to only few features. Rest, it's considering it as low priority. So at the end, for the model training and evaluation, the results are further evaluated through the use of confusion matrix, which provides structure breakdown of the predictive capabilities. It provides strength and weakness of each model. If we see the rock types, rock type 1 and 3, that are predicting little bit below 70%, almost 30% is uncertainty in it, while the rest are more predicting well more than 80%. After training and validation, the next step is to make the prediction across the entire reservoir by considering all the inputs. So we deploy these models and make the predictions. These provide valuable insights about the rock types and for the reservoir management as well. There are some difference. These difference comes because of feature priority and overall how much priority the model is giving to each input. So after prediction, we add an extra layer of cross-validation at blind wells. These wells are not part of initial training and validation. This enhances the overall, you can say, overall our confidence in log type distribution predictions. At the end, just to cross-validate our result, we have used seismic attributes. We flatten seismic in our zone of interest just for the purpose of stratal slicing. Then generated multiple seismic attributes, different attributes capture different heterogeneity. And then to further validate, to visualize the result, we use RGB blending technique to merge different attributes and then correlate it with our fish's predictions. This enhances our further confidence in the predictive capabilities of our machine learning models and its correlation with different attributes when they are blended with each other. So, as a concluding parts, basically data science is a multidisciplinary field that combines data science with maths and domain knowledge. There are still researchers going on, so it's important to consider the limitations before moving toward this machine learning process. It enhances our predictability, it reduces the time, increases accuracy and minimizes the human error. So at the end, we would like to thank our management for allowing us to present this paper. Now the floor is open for questions.
Thank you, Zubair. You actually finished your presentation quite well in time. So we have time for questions. So any questions from the audience?
Yeah, this is ATC from United Energy. I think it's a commendable work, first of all. After this analysis, do you find some success? There is a ratio which we can indicate based on this testing results to find some successes in particular areas so far.
So, thanks for your question for raising this, the post-model analysis of success. Basically, we have delivered this project and it's little bit, you can say, internal to say more about that. The project is not our own, it's something related to external as well.
Sure. So the second part which I was thinking actually, initially you put seismic on a low priority situation, but you work on the modeling piece more. But once you model your parameters and based on the seismic you try to calibrate it, do you feel comfortable? I mean, in seismic usually we have a lot of impurities. There is a huge, nowadays in different geological, domains we can see it. There is a high noise contamination inside the seismic. There is a lot of, number of impurities which usually processor can try to extract and provide us kind of a more clean data set. How do you think that something which is by default inside the input of the seismic we could have. Based on this exercise, once you will able to calibrate between seismic versus the model result, they should be a good match actually.
So for this feature selection, basically it's model selecting the feature, the priority, what priority it's giving to which features. Before coming towards this feature selection, let me go back to one more slide. Then I will come on your question. This one, the correlation between input features. First, we need to understand this. If the features are correlating with each other, so we need to drop that. It means we are increasing the time, but it does not impacting the overall result. We need the features that are uncorrelating with each other. So one thing, if we see the seismic is not correlating with the rest of the features. So coming towards the now to your question. So this model prioritizes. If you see a different model take as a priority different features, and seismic is a low priority. If you are not confident that the seismic is of good quality, and the model is considering as a high priority, so we need to discard that model. Here seismic is low priority, the rest of the feature are taken as high priority. If rest of the feature are taken as high priority, then that's why we use that these features are working. What we have in seismic, what is looking in seismic, are the features are giving same results or not. Basically rest of feature we have selected on our own decision.
I don't know. Actually, I have used 2 questions already. So if there is any third question, someone is from the audience, you may ask. I have another question. Maybe my fellow can, first ask.
Thank you so much, Zubair. My question is, as you showing some sort of workflow to define overall the overall results as well, can you share how we can apply in Pakistan in particular area to identify such features based on either we are using the well log or the seismic data? Can you give some sort of example?
Okay. Okay, just to give you the question that is, you can say relevant to this presentation and some of irrelevant to this presentation as well. So when I started one of the project that is source rock classification, we have multiple data sets. When we combine overall, we left with 370 columns. So when we refine the data from 370 column, we left with only 35 inputs. Then from 35 inputs, it depends on us which feature we want to select. And this totally depends on feature correlation. They must not correlate with each other. If they are correlating, one we need to drop. The other, the priority. How the model is giving priority. If it's giving low priority, we need to drop that. It's only taking the time, overall time, increasing the overall time. So if we see here, we have total 15 feature at the start that we consider as an input. And if we look this slide, different model considering different, only random forest is considering all the feature, rest it's not taking all. And if we further deep down in SVM, the support vector machine, only top 4 or 5 are taken as a high priority. Rest, if we can drop, it will not impact too much on the results.
Yeah. So I think the last question from my side is, you rightly mentioned, actually I was also about to ask you if you can see certain percentages of different attributes which you have used it, even in the form of a bar chart. They indicate the top 5, 6 or so, they have a higher weightage, and rest all which is going deep, X, Y, I and J cells, they could have, you know, very small intensity within this whole model process. Technically, the robustness of the model will be validated at time once the output product is, you know, available and you try and calibrate with the existing seismic data. My question is, I even understand this is, you know, your internal working and you don't want to open it. Is this working is for offshore setting area or it is for the onshore area?
It's onshore.
Onshore, okay, that's fine.
So further, just to confirm your answer, if we look on SVM, it's only considering 3-4 features as high priority. If we drop the rest, it will probably not impact too much output. But then we need to look. It's considering variora, seismic attributes, and 2 seismic attributes and 1 case cells. Are they reliable for our input in our area? Then we need to decide that. If they are not, then we need to switch to any other technique.
So thank you, Zubair. Thank you very much. I think it was very interesting topic. That's why you are getting questions. In the interest of time, I think we should close your session here and invite the next presenter. Thank you very much. So before we go to the second presenter, I would like to introduce Syed Faisal Ali Shah Sahab, who has joined us. He is a highly accomplished geoscientist of our industry. I know him since 1998. Maybe he doesn't remember that meeting in the US when he was associated with Western GECO. Later, he decided to come back to Pakistan, and he served at PPL for a long time. He's been there, and a lot of highly accomplished projects are on his shoulders. So then I think he moved to MOL and other associations also in Balochistan, and we are very privileged, Faisal Saab, having you here. So it's been very interesting until now, and I would hope that you'll enjoy the remaining session as well.
Thank you, Rauf Saab. He missed one of the most important part of my career. That is 2 years I stayed in Balochistan as the CEO of Balochistan Energy Company, and was able to activate that company. That was really a pleasure and a lot of learning for me. And Balochistan is the place where most of the E&P activity is going to be in the future. So that is one thing that I want to thank you for.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Mr. Hassan Ahmed Khan. A brief introduction of Mr. Hassan is that he graduated and post-graduated from Karachi University with specialization in geochemistry. He's been associated with the UEPL since then. He interests in 3D reservoir static modeling, and he's been making contributions into that. So I welcome Hassan, you at the stage. And the topic of his paper presentation is a robust method to identify potential reservoir zones having good hydrocarbon drilling shows but high water saturation in brownfield. Seems very interesting topic, so let's hear him.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. So my name is Mohammad Hassan Ahmed Khan, and I am associated with United Energy Pakistan Limited as a reservoir geologist. So before starting the topic, I would like to, thanks to my team, in which we have Tajammul Khan and Aisha Beg, Saddam Hussain, Mubassim Shahzad, and Hafiz Arsalanullah. They really contributed as a team to making this effort on this stage. Thank you. So today our topic is, sorry, I have a cough, sorry. So a robust method to identify potential reservoir zones having good hydrocarbon drilling shows, but very high water saturations in brownfields. So basically the content we have today for the discussion is the introduction about the area and the regional geology we have. According to this, we have a field history and the structure configuration And importantly, the reservoir, we are looking into it, that has a very high water saturations, but have a very good hydrocarbon shows. That is Lower Guru, Zone C sand, a known one in the lower Indus Basin, a reservoir in the lower Guru formation. So what makes us to, take the step and compel us to, taking from the ambiguity to the clarity? That is our 4th step, coming to the challenges we faced and the mitigation we come up with, and the results and obviously the achievements we have, and through the achievements we were able to, making the pathways feasible for us for the future prospect. And obviously the most important slide will be the interplay of structural complexities and the integration of those with the MDT results we have. So here we will see how high water saturations play important role to come up with the picture that it has less probability of flowing the water rather than the water from it, but have hydrocarbon from it. And obviously most of the areas in the brownfield are low marginal areas, so we have to couple those low marginal potential along with the high prolific zones. So that is one of the aspect and successful stories we have. And obviously there are future prospect we have after this findings. We have multiple other opportunities in our field, so we will show up there. So starting from the geology and the tectonic, the areas where we worked on it is basically lie on the lower Indus Basin, and it's an exceptional regime area. Tectonically, it's a horse and graben structure we have, and the prolific reservoir that we have is a lower Guru Zone C sand reservoir, and the play type is a down-thrown area. Down-thrown of the normal faulting regime, very complex structural features we have, and the hydrocarbon type we have is the oil and the gas. So the challenges that we faced, few are the challenges that we faced while we were, come up with the understanding that we need to investigate those areas where we left behind due to the high prolific zones, and we neglected those areas that were not, at that time seems to be very viable to go with it. So the challenges we faced, when we were doing this exercise, we have that thing in our mind that we need to, the exigencies of the, energy sector here to add up the value some little bit from our company to boost up the production for the consumer need. Obviously, the other thing comes when you are working in the brown fields, there are low output areas which we neglected, and we have to work on it to come up with the good opportunities, growth avenues we have in those areas. We will discuss it in the future slides. And obviously, working on the pocket type reservoirs, structurally complex area, you need to map those areas in such a way that you come up with the value added opportunity. And obviously, the most important thing here is we have, worked really hard to identify hydrocarbon areas in the high water saturation zones to produce those zones. This was very challenging to put a money on it. And obviously, after this, we have a mitigation criteria, what the challenges we were facing and mitigation we have taken. So defining those in the de-risking steps and, imperative measures we have taken to assure whatever the output will be the result-oriented output. And in the end, the results and the achievement, high risks have been taken, and the reward we get in terms of the future prospect. Obviously, the leveraging marginal opportunities, coupling with the high prolific zones, which we don't, sometimes the marginal opportunities are that have very low NPV to go and drill a well. So you couple those marginal opportunities with the high prolific zones. And in the end, the most important part is we have added from this understanding and this workflow we adopted, we added the value of 1.2 million barrel of oil in the reserves that bolstered our financial numbers. So here you can see the map of that particular field we have, and there is a well that is K1 well you can see on the map. This was the turning point when we investigated this well in the high water saturation area, and we come up with the understanding, we execute those areas and produce the hydrocarbon, then we make another well here. We have a room updip present in the area, we investigated and proposed a well and come up with the good hydrocarbon rates and coupling with the low marginal opportunities. So this is basically the regional geology. You can see the cross section here, the complex type of normal faulting regime, the alignment of the faults and the allocations of the fault. Very much difficult to address those areas on the down-thrown side. Obviously, on the up-thrown side, this is less difficult, but in the down-thrown side, we see normal faulting areas where small faults play a very critical role in terms of providing the structural closures and small pockets of the reservoir, structurally complex pockets. And in the right hand side, you can see the stratigraphic sections we have in our area where we have worked, and the reservoir that we worked on it is the Lower Guru Zone C sand reservoir. So if you talk about the history of the field, so it was discovered, you can see here the K1 well and the K4 well we have, and the K3 well in the northwestern side of the structure. So it was discovered in 2016 by the drilling of K3 well. We have produced from zone C sand. The fluid type was the oil. And by the time before this well, before the time we drilled in 2015 the K1 well with the deeper objective, and that particular zone C sand was neglected because we have a higher price in the deeper potential. Once we depleted those potentials, we come up with the again see those areas in the field where we think have some opportunities. We looked up in such a way, taking out from the nutshell and concluding those areas, and come up with a better picture in terms of the production head and the reserves head. So we got the commercial production from this particular log you can see here. The K1 has a petrophysical interpretation here. You can see very high water saturations here. Little pay is computed with high water saturations. And obviously it was a debatable topic every time whenever we take this to the management, either it is produce oil or water from it. So it's a very debatable thing, and we concluded this with certain assumptions and certain workings. We will show up in the next slide. You will see it there. So if you talk about first we take up from the depositional environment, the sand we have, it's dominated by the waves and influx of the tidal channels in it. Both the depositions of sand waves and the tidally influenced channel have a good reservoir quality, but on top of that, in relative term, the tidal influence channelized pattern has a good reservoir quality that has produced hydrocarbon in the offsets well. So this is overall the depositional environment, the demography of this, the architecture of the reservoirs, and the topography. You can see how the waves and the tidals are influxing between each other. So basically what makes us to do this thing. So obviously every time there is a manifesto you do with certain objective, and here we have the objective to add the reserves and the production. So we're realizing that it's a very innovative thing to reassess those areas which has been not seen due to different objectives, and obviously we were able to produce hydrocarbon from these high water saturations areas, and coupling those high water saturations areas with the marginal opportunities that were neglected previously. So we take the steps, de-risking steps in this criteria, and we follow those areas and come up with the better picture at the end of the day. So if you look at those top pictures, the top cross sections we have, the relook the uncertainty to the look forward the certainty. We have a well, K1 well, and you can see here in between the formation we have in the middle part we have some gas saturations you can see here, but a very high water saturation at top and the bottom. So the important thing that makes us to take this project up, the hydrocarbon shows was reported in the K1 wells, very good hydrocarbon shows you can see on the mud log of the K1 well, and then come up with the petrophysical understanding. It was showing the high water saturations. So once we able to identify this will produce hydrocarbon, we another well that was K4 well. So we ultimately come up with very good rates from it without water cut. So we will show you in the next slide how we de-risk those high water saturation areas. So the challenge that we faced, normally it's very debatable topic of low resistivity phase, and obviously to communicate and the technical challenges we face, it's always there, and emphasize on the alignment, integration, and team commitment is a very important, theme to work on it. And obviously, at the end, you need to take the decision with, some technical backgrounds and financial backgrounds as well, because you need to justify at the end of the day, it will produce with a very prolific rates. So the first step that we adopted was the de-risking step number 1. We identify that, okay, this is the zone that has been bypassed due to, different objectives of this field. But by the time we see there is a hydrocarbon shows in this particular zone C, sands with a very good fluorescence of 10 to 30% in the cuttings of the drilling samples. So this was the first de-risking criteria. We think that it has a potential. We need to, come up with the technical background, how we can prove this area to be the hydrocarbon rich area. This is the first step. The second step is the petrophysical assessment. We did the petrophysical assessment, and we come to know that it has a very high saturations of water in it. And once we take this to the management, we will perforate and put a money on it. There is always a debate to either it is produce water, it will produce water, so it has a surface setup on the surface to handle those waters. So it has also the feasibility of economics that at that time we were unable to justify. At the very initial stage, we were unable to justify it will, a prolific zone to go and perforate those areas. So we did the petrophysical assessment, and then we carry out 2 certain further assessment. That is, we see the reservoir quality assessment. So we have another well, that is K3 well in the offset area, and we have produced oil from it. So what we did, we just analyzed the reservoir quality in terms of taking the aspect of K3 data, zone 3 data, and K1 data, and the well L1 data. So we just plot those data points, resistivity and the sonic reservoir sonic data on the cross plot, and we see how they are similar to each other. So the cluster that making the K3 and the K1 in on the same area. So we got the confident, okay, this has a reservoir quality, and it can further add. It has a deliverability quality. So it will add the fluid if we perforate those areas. So that was our level 2 confidence that satisfy our needs. The last thing that we conducted in de-risking those areas was the picket plot analysis. The saturation profile we need to see. We plotted the saturations that has produced from the K3 well, and along with that, the well that we were investigating at that time, they are colliding. They are just on the same track, 25% of water saturation to 30-40%, and the 50% water saturation column, they are in a similar column. So this also provides the confidence to it has the same type of saturations. Similar type of saturation, not same as compared to the K3 well, because K3 well has a very good producibility and a very low rate of water. If you see the profile of the K3 well, it has a 50% and somewhere it has less than the 50% hydrocarbon saturation. But when we went and perforated those areas in the K3 well, it has produced around 800 barrels of oil. So that provided the confidence that the water that is retaining in the structure of the sediments is intact and is non-movable. So that provided us another opportunity in the level of confidence to de-risk those K1 area of zone 3. So in the result, we able to manage those understanding, and we compel the management to go and perforate, take up this project, because we have another opportunity in this area that if we able to produce this well, then we have another area in the structure we can go and put the well and produce the hydrocarbon. So once all the steps has been done to satisfy our needs in terms of the economics and financial aspect, we perforated and come up with the rates of 8 million of gas and 400 barrel of condensate from it. So since the inception of this perforation until now, it haven't produced any water from it, and produced approximately half of a BCF with the condensate it has. And that particular event encourages to go and further evaluate the remaining structure potential in it, and we tap with putting the K4 well in it, and we have a very good rates in it. So you can see here the production plot of the K1 well, it was producing very marginal rates, and once we perforated those sea sand areas, so we got a ramp up production of around 8 million of gas. And by the time we have conducted the PSP here, it has shows the contribution coming from this particular interval. So both the surveillance has confirmed that the hydrocarbon is coming from this interval, what we have perforated and what we have worked on. So after doing the work on the K1 well, we come up with the understanding that there is another opportunity in this areas that we can tap going up deep in the structure. So what we did, we just planned a well up deep to K1 well, and we drilled those that particular well, and we come up with the rates of around 10 million from this particular interval. And also we have added the further marginal potential in this well at that time, but before that time we were unable to execute those marginal potentials. I will show you up in the next slide why that were difficult to add the marginal potential in it. So here we have added the value from the C sand as well, and you can see here untap those areas that were unforeseen, and bypass phase we have. And every time when you tell the story to the people that the field has been dead, it means field has been dead. But once you think that it has a potential, it has a potential. So you need to come up with the nutshell and think out of the box to come up those understanding and add the value at the end of the day in your portfolio. So this is basically the integration of multiple data set. You can see here the K1 well, we have perforated those areas, and it has a very high water saturation. So what was the reason of the high water saturation in his? You can see here the capillary effect in the faulting induced fracture, because in the downthrown side of the area there were multiple small faults, that some of the faults we were able to map, but some of the faults we were not able to map because they were below the seismic resolution. What has happened in between those areas in the K1 well, you can see here the water drops has encroaches into the reservoir, but it has a prolific gas column zone, and that has the water content goes into the pores and it sits there. So once you go and drill those areas, you will see the higher water saturation, but that was the non-movable water. So it has been produced from the no water has been produced from the K1 well, because it was non-movable at that time, and the most prolific fluid was present, that is in the movable condition, was the gas. So you can see here we have conducted the PSP, the pressure was coming around 1400 psi, and then once we went and make a well, K4 well, it has come up with the 1100 psi above from the pressure that has recorded in the K1 well. So that provides the confidence that these particular small faults are providing the particular compartmentalization in terms of the communication. So that has concluded our understanding. Those areas due to high water saturation comes in the wells. So further, some of the opportunities were left in this field was we were unable to execute those opportunities. The reason was obviously it has a very low NPV value, very low potential, and obviously a very challenging workover in it. Because it has a very severe level of complexity of casing and pressure casing communication. So the workover was very challenging, and obviously the high workover cost was not justifying the to go for it. So what we did, we just coupled this particular reservoir in the K4 well, and we target that particular well in the K4 well. And obviously why we were unable to tap the whole potential from the existing K1 well, because there was a debris fill. We perforated the top zones of in the K1 well, and the debris was found on the deeper sand that were registering the production from the deeper well. And obviously the K1 well has a very less PI, because the partial part, the more than the less partial part was perforated in the K1 well. So that was very risky to go and do the workover. So we added that opportunity and make a very complex trajectory to cope up this remaining potential, the low potential in it. And when we add this potential in the K4 well in the deeper section, so we have perforated those deeper potential, and we produced around 12 million of gas from it. So that was the additional chunk from the marginal opportunity. The second marginal opportunity was the K1 well, in which we have conducted the MDT, and it has shown the gas filtrate, but obviously we cannot do the perforation. It has a very high risk of forming water. So we take this opportunity in the K4 well, going up deep in the structure, informed, and we prove the hydrocarbon in it. So in the future, we are looking like the same zone in the downstream side, another downstream block that is up dip to K3 well. So we are planning another well with the same story. So that will be the another add-up story in the whole scenario we have. So inshallah, next year we will be executing those areas in the form of B1 well. Conclusion, talk about the conclusion. It's a very integrated type of approach. Geoscientists, geologists, geophysics, petroleum engineer, reservoir engineer, all were on the same page. It took a long time to conclude this story, because we were working in the brown field, not in the mature field. And obviously the challenges we have, we face the challenges and the remarkable outcome you can see here. So we have to adopt some innovative techniques to come up with the nutshell and doing the out of the box things to conclude the things. And in the end, it has added the significant value in our portfolio of the reserves and the production as well. So recognizing the dead fields in terms of the latent potential it has, we need to always take up those opportunities high when brown fields are about to come to an end. So in the end, I would like to thanks to my management of United Energy Pakistan Limited. They granted us the data set and the final understanding of our project, and also the team effort we have multiple people in it. I would like to thank all of them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Hassan. It was a very interesting and valuable project. We have time for one question from the audience. You have a hand raised at the back, please.
Have you conducted lithological analysis?
Yes, we just correlate the offset data in terms of the reservoir quality we have. So we just seen those particular areas in terms of reservoir quality, what areas we have similar in the offset well and in the well that we were investigating.
Sometimes there is chemosite deposit in the reservoir, so that can also cause the resistivity low.
Yes, you are absolutely right. But here in this case, we have an offset well and very good history of hydrocarbon presence. And yes, this could be the possibility. But here we have a very less saturations, and the reason I told here, due to the capillary forms of going the water into the non-movable phase. So in terms of the presence of the chemosite, this is another aspect, but we don't see anything here like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Thank you. Our next paper presenter is Ms. Palvasha Shehzad. She has done her bachelor's and MPhil from Punjab University with distinctions. She is currently part of Mari Petroleum in reservoir team. Her topic is continuous modeling of net to gross or novel methodology for accurate hydrocarbon volume calculation in 3D geocellular models. Ji Palvasha.
So, how to open the presentation? Okay. Oh, how can I move it with my, okay, take. So, thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to all of you. The topic that I brought here today for the discussion is very simple and easy to understand. It has great importance for oil and gas sector as it is related to petroleum initial in place or PIP estimation. So the discussion is about the modeling of continuous NTG net to gross, a novel methodology for realistic hydrocarbon volume calculation in 3D geocellular models. My respected co-authors are Mr. Azaz Hassan, Mr. Kamran Zia, Mr. Saad Saeed Khan Jadoon, and Mr. Adil Azim. Now, without any further delay, let's jump to the contents that I will discuss in the presentation. So, first of all, I will give you the bit of background that why we think this technique is important. Then I will put some light on the concept of discrete NTG and continuous NTG. Then I will show you just brief introduction of my study area where the methodology has been implemented and the workflow specifically that we have used for this study. And last but not the least, I will show you the comparison of PIP estimated using the continuous NTG modeling and discrete NTG modeling, and for cross-checking our results, I will compare it with the PIP estimated by the material balance technique, that is P over Z. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start my discussion with a statement from the PRSMS guidelines, which states that overall experience shows that the prediction of gross rock volume or GRVs is the primary contributing factor leading to the overestimation of PIP, while the prediction of net to gross value is the second most important factor. So, our research shows that whenever the NTG is treated as a discrete property rather than using it as a continuous property, it always resulted in the overestimation of petroleum initial in place. So, the significance of NTG. So, the significance of NTG become more obvious when we deep dive to the rock fabric at the micro level during the petrophysical interpretation. And here we can see that the clays within the rock lies in the form of structured clay or the dispersed clay. So, realistically speaking, these type of clays should not be considered as a part of reservoir. Here in this figure, the highlighted portion, we can see that we have shaly sands, and the clays that are lying below the cutoff threshold, they are considered as the reservoir part. And these neglected or missed clays are actually the reason behind the overestimation of petroleum initial in place. So, the problem will be discussed in the detail in next slide. So, this slide actually depicts the methodology that addresses the clay within our system, as I discussed in my previous slide, that it is the clays that are basically the culprits behind the overestimation of the petroleum initial in place. This figure is giving us the concept of discrete and the continuous NTG. In the first figure 1A, we can see that we have a clay sand model that is showing the vertical lithological variability. Whereas in the next step, where we incorporated our cutoff of V clay, that is 50%, we can see it is dividing our non-reservoir portion from the reservoir portion that actually do not have, principally can't have potential of taking hydrocarbons. Further going on the next step, we have incorporated the vertical cells to capture the vertical log responses that are basically indicating the synthetic log, and here we can see that the different cells will be used for the 3D grid model. The next two are basically telling us about the concept of discrete NTG and the continuous NTG. Here in this figure, we can see that the NTG that is passing through the cut-off threshold of V clay is considered as the non-reservoir portion and it will be removed. In discrete NTG, what we do is the clays that lie below the V clay cutoff, we always neglect these values. Whereas when we treat the NTG as a continuous property, we see that we do not consider only this part that is over the V clay cutoff. We also consider the V clays or the clay content that are lying below the cutoff of V clay, and we consider it and then we remove it. So it will provide the better picture of the reservoir and it will bring us the more realistic picture of the reservoir. The same phenomena can be seen from the case study. Here it is in the figure on the right side. We can see that we have the clay sands and these clays are lying below the cutoffs. So here the question is how to calculate the continuous NTG. So it is very simple process, and it does consist of 2 steps. First, we have to find the V sand using the V clay log by using this simple equation here mentioned here, and then in the second step we will apply the cutoff of the V sand for finding the NTG continuous. So I will just give you the brief introduction of my study area on where we have applied this methodology. We have lower Indus Basin where the petroleum system is well established, and the lower Goru sands are acting as a good reservoir. Then structurally talking about our area is a 3-way dip flowyer, the faults are dipping towards north and northeast, and this is the whole static modeling methodology that has been adopted for this study, starting from constructing a structural framework, then populating the facies, then modeling the petrophysical properties like V clays and water saturation and porosities, and finally the estimation of PIP using the both NTGs. Now comes to the modeling workflow. So modeling workflow for both the NTGs are same. For continuous NTG, we have upscaled it and then modeled in the whole 3D grid. Whereas for discrete NTG, we have calculated the NTG by using the simple cutoffs, and then we have populated it in the whole grid. Then using both NTGs, the continuous NTG and the discrete NTG, we have estimated the PIP, and in the final step, we have compared our PIP with the PIP estimated from the P/Z method. So here in this slide, we can see the 3-dimensional view and the cross-sectional view of both the continuous populated NTG and the discrete NTG populated NTG, and we have used the moving average algorithm for this. So finally come to the results where the PIP estimated from the discrete as well as continuous NTG has been compared, and then we have cross-checked our results by comparing it with the results of the P/Z. That is considered as a more accurate technique for the uniformly depletion drive reservoir. You can see here that the difference in the estimated PIP is very minor. This is because our reservoir area is very small and it is uniform. But the difference will be very huge where we have large reservoir and where we have shaly sands. So at that point, in that case, you will know the importance of using the continuous NTG. Now come to the conclusion that we derived from our following discussion. The discrete NTG causes the overestimation in the PIP. The clay representation in net to gross estimation and population is a critical factor in estimating petroleum initially in place. The continuous NTG is preferable for volumetric estimation in reservoirs having more clays, and our finding reveals that the PIP estimation achieved by modeling NTG as a continuous property demonstrate greater alignment with the P/Z results. So we would like to thank the management of Maadi Petroleum Company Limited for allowing the publication of this paper, and thanks to ATC and PAPG committee for facilitating the publication of this paper. These are the following references that help us in finalizing our novel methodology of continuous NTG modeling. Now the floor is open for question and answers. Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, Ms. Palosha. We have time for a couple of questions.
आप जो है ना डिस्पर्स्ड क्लेस की बात कर रही हैं, लेकिन आपने कहीं भी मिनोलॉजी एक्सप्लेन नहीं की, क्योंकि डिस्पर्स्ड क्लेस जो होती हैं उनकी परसेंटेज बहुत कम होती है. पेट्रोग्राफी में तो पता चल जाती है, वाइल्ड लाइन लॉग्स में नहीं पता चलती, और फिर वो शेली सैंड्स की क्लासिफिकेशन में भी नहीं आती. तो आप डिस्पर्स्ड क्लेस किस बेसिस पे कह रही हैं उसको?
If I rightly understand your question, आप कह रहे हैं कि डिस्पर्स और क्ले शेल्स में
देखिए, जो क्लेज होंगी ना सैंड्स के अंदर, उसका मैट्रिक्स का पार्ट होगा. मैट्रिक्स का जिस वक्त पार्ट होगा तो वो बाज़ दफ़ा और अक्सर आपके वाइल्डलाइन लॉग्स में उसका पता ही नहीं चलता। और उसकी शेल्स की जो सैंड की जो क्लासिफिकेशन है ना, उसके लिए आपको पेट्रोग्राफी की ज़रूरत पड़ती है। पेट्रोग्राफी के बाद आपको पता चलता है कि क्लेस की टाइप कौन सी है और किस किस्म की है, डिस्पर्स्ड है, यानी ये हमारे साथ आदि में हुआ है। तो आप जब डिस्पर्स्ड क्लेस की बात कर रहे हैं तो उसके अंदर आपकी जो है उसमें मिनरोलॉजी या किसी हवाले से कुछ ना कुछ जो है ना वो होना चाहिए था। तो मैं इसी हवाले से सिर्फ बात करना चाह रहा हूँ।
जी okay, actually he is, I think if I'm rightly understand, you're referring those clays which can be petrophysically derived but you cannot see on the logs. That's your question if I rightly understand, right?
नहीं, पेट्रोग्राफी में देखिए आदि के अंदर सैंड्स हैं, चौड़ा के अंदर, तोबरा के अंदर हमारे साथ प्रॉब्लम थी। मुझे पता है गुरु के अंदर भी ये प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन मसला ये है कि जो सैंड्स की परसेंट, जब सैंड की पेट्रोग्राफी करते हैं तब आपको पता लगता है कि क्ले की टाइप कौन सी है, ये कॉलोनाइट है, मोनमरेलोनाइट है, या कौन सी क्ले है। उसके बाद उसकी परसेंटेज की बेसिस के ऊपर आप उसको करते हैं, या आप स्पेसिफिक आपके लॉग्स हैं जिसकी बेसिस के ऊपर आप उसे डिस्पर्स क्ले या ये जो है ना इस तरह आप उसको एक्सप्लेन कर पाते हैं।
Actually this is not a debate whether मतलब कि we classify these clays. The question is कि there is always shale or clay present in your petrophysical model. How to classify this is another question, and it is inclusively comes under petrophysical domain. We are not discussing that. Actually what we are discussing that most of the time you calculate your B clay or B shale and your petrophysical analysis. Now that is important, whether it should be a part of your reservoir or not. So we are addressing that shale which theoretically speaking should not be the part of your reservoir, and that can possibly contribute in your overestimation of PEP.
And here we are discussing the clays basically that will be shown on the well log. This technique is whole based on the logs.
What they are referring is simply whatever we see in a log. In log acquisition, you have a sandstone, or you have a shale, or you have a limestone. Only 3 types of the rocks you can identify easily. So this paper is addressing the amount of the shale, not the clay minerals. That is a different theoretical and practical understanding. Clay minerals are important if you go for fracking job to understand the elemental presence of kaolinite or mortonite or different type of clay minerals. So they are treating which volume should be excluded from the estimation of the in place when you are calculating the in place sandstone and shale. In the shale, what is clay? They are not discussing those things. That is not the subject of this paper probably.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Saab. I think if there are any questions, they can be taken sideline. So, thank you very much, Ms. Palosha and Azaz.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I requested Rauf to give me 1 minute to say something, which excellent. I have seen some papers yesterday and today as well. Very good research papers. One thing that I would like to tell everybody, especially our youngsters, is that the time when, for example, when I graduated or even afterwards, the relevance time to what you have learned in your degree used to be something like 20 years. It used to stay relevant, and we enjoyed that time. But these days, according to the research, in most of the field, especially the sciences, the relevance time for what you study in your degree in the university is 2.5 years. So what it requires is to keep pace with what is happening in your industry, to continuously look at the advancement in technology, in research, what is happening. This is part of it that we are doing these conferences, but you have to be more vigilant than the people in our times. We enjoyed that, as I said, but there is no time now to leave what is happening in the world and just stay with focus to what you know. So you have to, and the advantage that this generation especially have, which we didn't have, is that they have access to knowledge. We didn't have that, swift access to the knowledge. We have to go to the libraries and all that. So that is an advantage. Exploit it to the fullest and be on top of what is happening in the world and come up with new and novel ideas, for it is necessary for progress in any industry, and especially in our E&P industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francis sir, for your great piece of advice. Our next and last presenter of this session is Mr. Ansar Usman. He's specialized in geochemistry and geomechanics. He has 5 years industry experience. Geomechanics is one of the very challenging domains, especially when we are dealing with the wells in the north and in Balochistan. So I hope that Mr. Ansar is contributing into that as well. So his topic for the paper presentation is anisotropy characterization of sandbar formation through 3D downhole acoustic tools and oriented core tests. Ji, Mr. Ansar, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you as we will delve into a significant topic of this industry, which is the anisotropy characterization of the Sambar shale through 3D downhole acoustic tools and oriented core results. I would appreciate my co-authors from the OGDCL, Mr. Naveed Hassan, Mr. Shahid Javed, Mr. Asif Ali, and from Islamabad, Mr. Anzar Sayyed, Duriya Sharif, and Muhammad Ramzan. So without any further delay, let's embark into this journey together. It's not working. Excuse me, I cannot actually forward the slides. Okay, so let's take a moment to explore the agenda. I will go through in the next couple of minutes. I will begin with a concise introduction of the area and the project at hand, and then I will discuss the results of the acoustic processing and how we have calibrated the core with our logs for mechanical earth modeling and wellbore stability analysis. To summarize, I will wrap up my presentation with the key takeaways in the conclusion segment before expressing my heartfelt acknowledgements. So as we all know that geology plays a critical role in all of the projects. Basically, our subjective well is situated in the middle, in the lower Indus Basin, which is known as the shale gas pilot. And the basin lies in the south of the Madikandkot High. Its eastern boundary is defined by the Indian Shield, and on the western side, it is adjacent to the Indian Plate marginal zones. And in the south, we have the Indus offshore. The area has gone through an extensive extensional regimes during the late Cretaceous when Madagascar was separating from the Indian Plate, which resulted in the form of the host and graben structure that can be seen on the image on the left side. The basin has an extensive history of the depositional environment. In the lower Indus Basin, we have the sediments from Jurassic to the recent age. And the drill well actually was drilled up to the Cretaceous age in the Sambar Formation. And the Sambar Formation here has an average thickness of about 600 meters. And on the image from the right, we can see that the Sambar Formation is mainly the shale with minor sandstone and siltstone beds. The Sambar shale is really critical because for the unconventional prospects, this formation is really important. The unconventional reservoirs are actually consist of a mixture of the mineralogies, predominantly the clays, and these clays will give a lamination structure to these reservoirs as depicted in the cartoon in the image above. In such type of reservoirs, the rock properties will vary vertically, and this type of anisotropy is known as TIV or transverse anisotropy. And for the TIV and such type of media, actually we need the stiffness tensors that have been enlisted in the matrix form. And from these stiffness tensors, we derive the elastic properties, the Young's modulus and Poisson ratio, which are horizontally as well as the vertical. The elastic properties are then utilized to model the horizontal stresses, and one of the thing is defining the stress barriers. Yeah. So, for example, if we have the higher stress anisotropy, if the anisotropy of the elastic property is high, we will have a high stress barriers, and as a result, the frag will have a lower in height, it will be longer, and it will be thinner as shown in the image in the below in the red colors. Yeah. And vice versa, if we have the low elastic anisotropy, the stress barrier will be low, and it will result in a frag which will have a more height, less length, and it will be wider. And for these tensors, actually what we need is the processed sonic logs. And here we have acquired and processed the sonic scanner in 3D open hole section. And for the basic PNS, we have derived the compressional and the shear slowness from the slowness time coherency and slowness frequency coherency plots, which are shown on the 4 rightmost tracks over here. Okay, to determine the formation type, actually we have generated a plot that is between the VPVS and the compressional slowness, and this analysis indicates that the formation is fast to intermediate, and overall we have a good quality of the sonic data because we have a good coherency as well as from the VPVS and compressional plots, except in few bad hole intervals which are flagged in the form of blue and red colors. For the advanced acoustic processing, actually, we have done the 2D and the 3D anisotropy. In the 2D anisotropy, we have processed the X and Y dipoles and got the shear slownesses, which is the fast and the slow shearness that have been shown under the 2D anisotropic tracks, and drawn the dispersion plots on the two depths which are in the middle. The red is the fast shear slowness and blue is the slow shear slowness. The crossing of these two slownesses actually indicate that we have the anisotropy which is mainly related to stresses. And for the 3D anisotropy, we have done the radial profiling, and the dispersion plots are on most right side. The cyan color is the Stoneley shear slowness, and the red one is the fast shear slowness, and the blue one is the slow shear slowness. So in the 3D anisotropy, we got the stiffness constants C6s, C55, and C44s. And under the tracks of 3D anisotropy, we can see that we have some areas where it is highlighted as yellow. So these are the areas where C6 is higher than the C55 and C44, and it indicates that we have transverse anisotropy. So to minimize the uncertainty of the processing results, actually we have planned a comprehensive core testing plans. And for that, we have utilized already available information like GR, the sonic data, and the thin section description to define the classes based on the cluster analysis. And then we have decided that we will conduct the different core tests like single triaxial, multi-stage triaxial, and the Brazilian test. The results of these tests are actually over here, and what we have seen is on the top left side, we have a plot of Young's modulus static versus the orientation of the bedding. We can see that the Young's modulus value is increasing when we go from vertical to 45 degree and 90 degree. Similar trend is seen in the Poisson ratio as well. We show that there is anisotropy in the Semmer formation, and the amount of this anisotropy for the Young's modulus is 45%, and for the Poisson ratio it's 33%. While if we come to the rock strength properties, which is the UCS, we can see that UCS decrease when we move from vertical to 45 degree and to horizontal. And the minimum value is along the 45 angle, because at this specific orientation, the rock will fail along the pre-existing weak planes like the laminations. We have done the comparison of the Thomson parameters, which is the gamma and the epsilon with the other organic rich shales, and we can see our points are actually in the blue. So we have a less anisotropy as compared to the other organic rich shales. So next we will see that how we have used these core results to calibrate our sonic and the other interpretations. In this plot, actually, the blue curves are the pre-core analysis and the blue one are the after-core analysis. We can see that there is a little bit discrepancies because we have to adjust the merge slowness. Previously, it was used 201 and then it was updated. Similarly, the rock mechanical properties, which includes the Young's modulus, Poisson ratio, UCS, friction angle, and tensile strength, they have been calibrated with the core results, and the correlations were derived based on the core results. And overall, we see that we have a fair match. The modeling of the rock mechanical properties is actually done in the mechanical earth modeling. And to build a mechanical earth model, we have to go through a 10-step workflow, which is enlisted over here. In the next few slides, I will just focus on the main workflow parts from 6 to 10, which includes the rock mechanical properties, modeling, horizontal stress modeling, and the failure analysis. Okay, so the model mechanical properties based on the locally developed correlations. Actually, the correlations are mentioned over here. I will just go through the main values that we have got from the histogram. So we have plotted the histograms for the elastic properties as well as for the rock strength properties. And the elastic properties shows that for the vertical static Young's modulus, we have an average value of 3.1, and for the horizontal Young's modulus, we have an average value of 4.93. While for the Poisson ratio, for the vertical, we have an average value of 0.24, and for the horizontal Poisson ratio, we have an average value of 0.31. Similarly, on the left side, we have the histograms of the rock strength properties, which includes the UCS on the most left side, which is in green, and the average value is almost 11,000. On the right side, in the yellow, we have the tensile strength, whose average value is almost 1,500, and then on the most right side, we have the friction angle, which has an average value of 24. Our next step was to model the in-situ stresses, and in the in-situ stresses, the two horizontal stresses were modeled based on the poroelastic equation that have been enlisted over here. Actually, we have uncertainty in the collier pressure, and there was a range. One range was that the collier pressure from the data frag has a gradient of 0.86 psi per feet, and other was that it has a higher value of 0.1 psi per feet. So on the basis of these two values, actually we have established two horizontal stress models, and the average values for the both of the models have been enlisted in the form of the histograms. Okay, so we can see that overall actually what we have is that the stress regime is strictly with some of the components where we have the reverse regime as well. Okay, so the final step was the failure analysis, and in the failure analysis what we do actually, we match that how our model is predicting that the shear failure should occur, and then we calibrate this shear failure with the actual failure that can be seen on the caliper logs. And from this failure analysis and over our calibration of the rock properties and the horizontal stresses, we can see that we have a very well calibrated model. And just to conclude, basically the formation chamber that we have targeted is fast to intermediate type, and it has the anisotropy which is very minimum. The 3D anisotropy results actually show that the gamma value is about 0.3, and the anisotropic parameters like Thomson and gamma are lower as compared to the other organic rich shales. If we talk about the anisotropy, the Young's modulus anisotropy is about 45% for the static Young's modulus, we have the 33%, and the UCS value is actually minimum when the core is oriented at 45 degree. If we talk about the breakdown pressures, we have the breakdown pressures from 17,000 to 21,500 psi, and in the gradient, its value is 1.38 to 2.34 psi per feet. While for the co-layer pressure, we have a range of 10,000 to 13,000 psi, and in the gradient, its value is 0.85 to 1.06. The stress barriers actually that exist into this formation have a range of 600 to 1550 psi. Overall, we have used an integrated approach, and despite the very high breakdown pressures, based on this analysis, we can say that the Sammer formation is a candidate for the fracking, but we have to take considerations during the execution of the job. So at the end, I will actually extend my gratitude to the management of the OGDCL and Schlumberger to share the findings with all of you. So that's all from my side. If you have any question, please let me know.
Thank you, Hassan. You have finished very well in time. So we have now time for a few questions.
Thank you, sir. It's a good presentation. You have a breakdown pressure around 10,000?
17,000.
17,000. Actually, I have a question with Dr. Saab. Dr. Saab, you are leading a shale gas team, and what you think that this kind of high pressure you can frack possibility?
Okay, so do you want to answer from Dr. Saab or from my side?
Dr. Saab is also leading a
I think you should answer, then I will make a comment.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir. Actually, this is achievable because we have already fracked 2 stages, yeah, and the pressure value that is coming from the data frac. So it's mean that we have already fracked, so it's possible, yeah.
I think yes, the best thing is that the rock has been fracked. The most important thing, I'm so happy to see the result you have shown. Yesterday we have a one frac job and they were not even showing the breakdown pressure and blah, blah, blah. So this conference and these papers are for knowledge sharing and for the benefit of the other companies.
Sure.
Now when people will be doing a sample formation, they should know what kind of well jewelry they should have it, what cement they should have it, what kind of casing they should have it, because now you have shown us their breakdown pressure is from 10,000 to 17 to 21,000. So I will request all the colleagues here now, and people are hesitant to share their actual data. Nobody is stealing anything from us. अब इस सैम्बर को कौन लेके जाएगा यार? सैम्बर तो हमारे पास ही रहेगी, किरथर का ब्लॉक किरथर वालों के पास रहेगा, माड़ी का ब्लॉक माड़ी के पास रहेगा, उस प्लास्टिक को, उस परमिबिलिटी को, उस प्रेशर को कौन लेके जाएगा? तो ये हमारे अंदर एक अनफॉर्चुनेट सिचुएशन है कि हम इस सिक्रेसी को इतना ख़राब कर रहे हैं, और इस सिक्रेसी की वजह से कमर्शियल इशू ठीक है, उसको आप टच ना करें जो कमर्शियल है, लेकिन जो रॉक प्रॉपर्टीज़ है, जो साइंस है, जो इंजीनियरिंग एक्सपीरियंस है, खुदा के लिए ये शेयर करें ताकि इट विल हेल्प अदर पीपल नॉट टू मेक दोज मिस्टेक विच वी हैव मेड. तो आपका आंसर तो उसने दे दिया कि वी हैव फ्रैक द रॉक, सो फ्रैकिंग इज पॉसिबल बिकॉज देयर इज नो इशू विद fracking. Basically control mineralogy as well as the pressure. If you got a good motor, good pressure, so you can frack it even whatever you like to go, but casing and cement should be ideally very good. And there you should know what is bursting and collapsing pressure of your casing, so that, and similar packer and well at both, 4 things are important to go for fracture job. Very good, thank you very much. It's a good paper and very good guideline for the people who are working for the shale. Thank you very much.
I think we have one question back there.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Nice presentation. My question is, what were your principal stress magnitudes and directions in this area?
Actually, the magnitude, let me just go through. Okay, so.
Just give a range.
Okay, the range was actually from 15,000, yeah. For the minimum one, let me just go actually the exact slide. Okay, so actually on the left side we have the histograms showing the magnitudes of the horizontal stress area. So for example, if we say for case 1, we see that the minimum horizontal stress value average is almost 11,000 here, and for the case 2 it's almost 12 to 13,000.
And did you see any sort of rotations within the stresses throughout the formations, or it was homogeneous stress throughout the well or the formation?
Actually, the stress rotation was there a little bit along the fault, yeah, because one of the fault was there in the well bore, yeah. So in the vicinity of the fault, there was a little bit stress rotation, but overall, it's almost similar, yeah. And its value was, if I can recall, it was 270.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Can you just share, what was the pore pressure for this study? Pore pressure.
Pore pressure? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so, any issues? Okay. So for example, in this graph, we have the pore pressure area. Over here, the blue one, if you can see now.
So in PSI it was close to 10,000 PSI?
Sorry?
So it was around 10,000 PSI,
Yes.
if I can see.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
I think we have no more questions. At the closing end, I would like to extend what Dr. Saeed Jadoon was mentioning, that availability of data, especially data secrecy and the data coming to public domain, is one of the main hindrances in the R&D and the research and the progress. I've seen many students coming for PhD research, and they were giving a very small area for research. So if they are not available or made available with sufficient data, how can they research and how they can learn and add value into that? So Dr. Saab, I think this should be taken at ministry level, that we know that in Canada, the data is public after 1 year, and the most of the research is happening there, and we just follow them. So if the data is available, I think that can add a lot of value, especially the challenges that we are now thinking to open tight gas and the shale gas venue. So it won't be easy if we don't have data available with us. So Francis Saab, any last remarks before we close the session?
Yeah, you have given me the mic again, and I will take the advantage of this 1 minute and share with you something which may not be very much relevant to what we have been discussing, but it is very much relevant to all of us at this time that we are passing through. I was in a inauguration ceremony at Qaid-e-Azam University about 2 weeks ago for a Center of Excellence in Earth Science Department, and there was a lot of Chinese people, including Chinese ambassador, and everyone was there. And the Vice Chancellor of the university used that occasion to highlight what is the most burning issue in the world at this time. And then he also thanked the Chinese ambassador and other people for helping the cause of the humanitarian cause of the people in Gaza in the General Assembly of the United Nations. I went to Karachi last week. There was a woman festival. In that woman festival, they have made sure that they invited an organization with the name Al-Khidmat over there to highlight what is happening in Gaza and collect the donations over there. I am not sure, maybe in the concluding remarks or concluding session, the the organizers may have put some resolution or something. If not, we should do that at least. So this is something that I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just one comments about Rauf, आपने जो बात बताई है डेटा की, particularly ये शेल के लिए मेरा एक इंटरव्यू पीछे न्यूज़ में पब्लिश हुआ, उसमें the objective of this well, pilot well, is to pave a way for the investor to know what is the type of the shale and what is the productivity. At the moment, we are unable to know कि shale is productive or not. अभी इस टेस्ट से हमें बहुत अच्छी एक्सपीरियंस हुआ है, गैस फ्लोज भी और 3-4 महीने हमने गैस फ्लो कराई है इस वेल में फ्रैकिंग के बाद. दैट इंडिकेटेड कि शेल इन पाकिस्तान इज़ ए प्रोड्यूसेबल, फ्रैकेबल और इसका प्रेशर भी आ गया है. जहाँ तक डेटा गया है कि डेटा सिर्फ 2 इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों की वजह से लोग डेटा नहीं देता है. एक पेपर में बहुत पहले एक जगह एक कंपनी ने पेपर पब्लिश किया और उसके रिजर्व्स के इशू हो गए थे. सपोज एक फील्ड है जिसमें आप NTG बता देते हैं, थिकनेस बता देते हैं, एरिया बता देते हैं, रॉक बता देते हैं, तो लड़के जब पेपर या थीसिस लिखते हैं उसमें उसके वॉल्यूम कैलकुलेट कर देते हैं. आपने अपनी कंपनी के बुक किए हुए रिजर्व्स एट दी स्टॉक मार्केट पे, सपोज यू हैव बुक्ड योर रिजर्व 20 million एंड स्टूडेंट्स कम अप विद द नंबर्स 15 million, then there is a controversy rises on the stock market and their shareholder. That is why most of the company does not like to provide them a particular data that can people can calculate reserves are in place. So apart from that area, other rock property data should be given to the students, like a seismic section they should have it, and similarly those fields which has been developed already, rock properties, particularly with respect to the geomechanics, that should be shared with data so that people can understand. However, what we can do is that sometimes we provide the data to the students by name of X field in Patwar region, in Kohat Basin, in Lower Goru, Indus Basin. So in this case, people can work and write and present their paper. So that is the only sensitivity in when you're dealing with commercial reserves or commercial field which is on production, and the company who are on stock exchange market. So that is why people are a little bit hesitant. Thank you.
Dr. Saab, on continuation of what you just said and the last paper, it is relevant to this discussion. We should just emphasize, yes, there is work going on in the background for the shale gas. What is on the table right now is the tight gas policy. And the people who are, if in the audience there are some people from the ministry, if not, this has to be emphasized that it is too late now. We have a discussion in the last couple of months. This policy has to come now. Yeah.
वो जो हमने अपने think tank से कल दिया, तो it is with the ministry already. Or yes, yesterday I got a call from the DGPC as well. I have sent those policy again, that policy again to the ministry, so they are working on it. I hope it will be covered very soon. And there is an amendment basically in tight gas policy with respect to the incentive, like 40% extra cost people will be getting if there is a tight gas reservoir. So that is a great incentive. The other thing is that every well don't have to be certified like this. So there are few issues which we addressed, and we have compiled that policy, and I have sent to the Additional Secretary of Petroleum. Now it is with DGPC, so they are working on it. I hope it will be, inshallah, very soon it will be done. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much. As we are nearing to conclude this session, I would like to thank the session chairs for their valuable input and their time. Thank you very much, sir. It was an honor having you, both of you, over here and listening to your very precious insights. Especially Farazat Saab, we are very much humbled by your what you have said about Gaza, and we are sure that we would like to highlight it at the end of this meeting or this conference, also in the ending ceremony. So I would now like all the participants who have presented along with the co-authors to please line up so that we can have the shield distribution ceremony. So I would like both our chairs to please stand up, and so that. So from the first group, I would like Mr. Zubair along with his team, which include Ms. Sairish Bibi, Ms. Madiha Ali, Adil Javed and Ms. Ramsha Rauf, to please come on the stage and collect your shields from the honorable chairpersons. Mr. Zubair. Ms. Sairish Bibi. Ms. Madiha Ali. Mr. Adil Javed and Ms. Ramsha Rauf. So we will be moving on the next group. I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Hassan Ali Ahmed Khan along with this team to please come on the stage and collect your shields. So Mr. Hassan Ahmed Khan, please have a round of applause for him because these guys are working really hard. I would like to invite Ms. Aisha Beg, Tajammul Khan, Saddam Hussain and Hafiz M. Arsalanullah. If they are present, they can please come and collect their shields. Okay, moving toward the next group, I would like to invite Ms. Palwasha Shahzad Rathore along with her team to please collect your shields. The team includes Mr. Kamran Zia, Mr. Azaz Hassan, Mr. Saad Saeedullah Jadoon and Mr. Adil Azim. Okay, the team's here. So please have a round of applause for the team. They have presented a very nice paper and your applause means appreciation for them. Okay, so moving toward group 4, I would like Mr. Ansar Usman and his team to please come on the stage and collect your trophies. The team includes Mr. Shahid Javed, Mr. Muhammad Ramzan, Mr. Naveed Ahmed, and Ms. Duriya Sharif. So I would like all of you to please come on the stage and collect your shields. Please have a round of applause for them. Because just think as a presenter that when a person presents his research work in front of a crowd, so your applause means a lot to that person. It encourages that person to do more, strive more. So please have a round of applause for all these people. And finally, I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Ibrahim and Mr. Haider Ali Shah on the stage to present the shields of honor to our esteemed chairpersons. Mr. Haider Ali Shah will be presenting the shield to Sayyid Farasat Shah Saab, and Ibrahim Saab will be presenting the shield to Abdul Rauf Saab, sir. So please, once again, a round of applause for our esteemed chairpersons. Before I close this session, the next session will be was scheduled at 11, but we'll be shifting it around 11:20 so that you guys can have a tea break. I would also like to reiterate on one thing, that if you have any suggestion for the betterment of this, you can say technical sessions which we are conducting. So I would like you to visit the PAPG booth and please register your you can say suggestions, valuable suggestions, so that we can keep them in our mind while arranging the next sessions. So it would be very nice if you go to the PAPG booth and please tell us that how can we make these technical sessions more better and more engrossing so that we can have more viewers and we can more people can benefit from it, because this is a technical conference and I would love to have more audience in the technical conference rather in the, you can say, outdoor gallery. Thank you very much. The next session will be at 11:20.